And in Congress, I recognize, in part because of some of the fears of the public that have been fanned oftentimes by misinformation. There continues to be a fair amount of opposition to closing Guantanamo. If it were easy, it would have happened years ago as I wanted, as I have been working to try to get done. But there remains bipartisan support for closing it. And given the stakes involved for our security, this plan deserves a fair hearing. Even in an election year, we should be able to have an open, honest, good faith dialogue about how to best ensure our national security. And the fact that I'm no longer running, Joe is no longer running. We're not on the ballot. It gives us the capacity to not have to worry about the politics. Let us do what is right for America. Let us go ahead and close this chapter, and do it right, do it carefully. Do it in a way that makes sure we're safe, but gives the next president and, more importantly, future generations, the ability to apply the lessons we've learned in the fight against terrorism. And doing it in a way that doesn't raise some of the problems that Guantanamo has raised. I really think there's an opportunity here for progress. I believe we've got an obligation to try. President Bush said he wanted to close Guantanamo despite everything that he had invested in it. I give him credit for that. There was an honest assessment on his part about what needed to happen. But he didn't get it done, and it was passed to me. I've been working for 7 years now to get this thing closed. As president, I have spent countless hours dealing with this. I do not exaggerate about that. Our closest allies have raised it with me continually. They often raise specific cases of detainees repeatedly. I don't want to pass this problem on to the next president, whoever it is. And if, as a nation, we don't deal with this now, when will we deal with it? Are we going to let this linger on for another 15 years, another 20 years, another 30 years? If we don't do what's required now, I think future generations are going to look back and ask why we failed to act when the right course. The right side of history, and of justice, and our best American traditions was clear. So, again, I want to thank Secretary Carter. You and your team did an outstanding job, and you've shown great leadership on this issue. With this plan, we have the opportunity, finally, to eliminate a terrorist propaganda tool. Strengthen relationships with allies and partners, enhance our national security. And, most importantly, uphold the values that define us as Americans. I'm absolutely committed to closing the detention facility at Guantanamo. I'm going to continue to make the case for doing so for as long as I hold this office. But this is a good moment for everybody to step back, take a look at the facts. Take a look at the views of those who have been most committed to fighting terrorism. And understand this stuff: our operatives, our intelligence officials, our military. Let's go ahead and get this thing done. Thanks very much, everybody. Barack Obama. Address on gun violence in Connecticut. Delivered April 8, 2013, Hartford, Connecticut. Hello, Connecticut. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Let me begin by thanking Nicole and Ian for your brave words. I want to thank them and all the Newtown families who have come here today. Including your first selectman, Pat Ladra. Nobody could be more eloquent than Nicole and the other families on this issue. And we are so grateful for their courage and willingness to share their stories again and again. Understanding that nothing is going to be more important. In making sure the Congress moves forward this week than hearing from them. I want to thank all the educators from Sandy Hook Elementary who have come here as well, the survivors. Audience members, we love you, Obama. President Obama, I love you back. I do. The survivors who still mourn and grieve. But are still going to work every day to love and raise those precious children in their care as fiercely as ever. I want to thank Governor Malloy for his leadership. Very proud of him. I want to thank the University of Hartford for hosting us this afternoon. Thank you. Hawks. And I want to thank the people of Connecticut for everything you've done to honor the memories of the victims, because you're part of their family as well. One of your recent alumni, Rachel Diavino, was a behavioral therapist at Sandy Hook. Two alumni of your performing arts school, Jimmy Green and Nelba Marquez Green. Lost their daughter, Anna, an incredible, vibrant young girl who looked up to them. And learned from them, and inherited their talents by singing before she could talk. So every family in the state was shaken by the tragedy of that morning. Every family in this country was shaken. We hugged our kids more tightly. We asked what could we do. As a society, to help prevent a tragedy like that from happening again. And as a society, we decided that we have to change. We must. We must change. I noticed that Nicole and others refer to that day as 12/14. For these families. It was a day that changed everything. And I know many of you in Newtown wondered if the rest of us would live up to the promise we made in those dark days if we'd change. Two, or if once the television trucks left, once the candles flickered out. Once the teddy bears were carefully gathered up, that the country would somehow move on to other things. Over the weekend, I heard Francine Wheeler, who lost her son Ben that day. Say that the 4 months since the tragedy might feel like a brief moment for some, but for her, it feels like it's been years since she saw Ben. And she's determined not to let what happened that day just fade away. We're not going anywhere, she said. We are here. And we are going to be here. And I know that she speaks for everybody in Newtown, everybody who was impacted. And, Newtown, we want you to know that we're here with you. We will not walk away from the promises we've made. We are as determined as ever to do what must be done. In fact, I'm here to ask you to help me show that we can get it done. We're not forgetting. We can't forget. Your families still grieve in ways most of us can't comprehend. But so many of you have used that grief to make a difference, not just to honor your own children. But to protect the lives of all of our children. So many of you have mobilized and organized and petitioned your elected officials with love and logic. As Nicole put it, as citizens determined to right something gone wrong. And last week, here in Connecticut, your elected leaders responded. The Connecticut legislature, led by many of the legislators here today. Passed new measures to protect more of our children and our communities from gun violence. And Governor Malloy signed that legislation into law. So I want to be clear. You, the families of Newtown, people across Connecticut, you helped make that happen. Your voices, your determination made that happen. Obviously, the elected leaders did an extraordinary job moving it forward. But it couldn't have happened if they weren't hearing from people in their respective districts. People all across the state. That's the power of your voice. And, by the way, Connecticut is not alone. In the past few months, New York, Colorado, Maryland have all passed new, common-sense gun safety reforms as well. These are all states that share an awful familiarity with gun violence. Whether it's the horror of mass killings, or the street crime that's too common in too many neighborhoods. All of these states also share a strong tradition of hunting, and sport shooting, and gun ownership. It's been a part of the fabric of people's lives for generations. And every single one of those states. Including here in Connecticut decided that, yes, we can protect more of our citizens from gun violence while still protecting our Second Amendment rights. Those two things don't contradict each other. We can pass common sense laws that protect our kids and protect our rights. So Connecticut has shown the way. And now is the time for Congress to do the same. Now is the time for Congress to do the same. This week is the time for Congress to do the same. Now, back in January, just a few months after the tragedy in Newtown. I announced a series of executive actions to reduce gun violence and keep our kids safe. And I put forward common sense proposals much like those. That passed here in Connecticut for Congress to consider. And you'll remember in my State of the Union address, I urged Congress to give those proposals a vote. And that moment is now.